to welcome Mark Bailey, who's one of our clinicians at TCDA for this summer and dealing with Title I schools. So welcome, Mark Bailey. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good. Want to congratulate you on your session that's upcoming at TCDA this summer. And I wanted to speak a little bit to you and get some of our audience members to know a little more about you and what your session is going to entail this summer.
My session this summer is called Progress Over Perfection. It will be focusing on Title I students' success and growth in programs that perhaps have been struggling or programs that have never had success before, and how we measure success little by little or progressively over time for programs that want to have a growth mindset.
Good, great for you. I'm sure this is your session is going to be one of the three that I'm going to be recording for after convention access for members. But let's start with you yourself. So, where did you begin your teaching career, and what did that particular job choice teach you?
So I began my career in Houston, in a suburb of Houston called Humble, in Humble ISD at Atascocita Middle School, and took over a program that was well established. The teacher that had been there for a number of years went on to be at a brand new high school, and she runs one of the finest programs in the state, in my opinion. And it was really easy for a first-year teacher to walk in because the students were so well trained. The level of organization, the groundwork, the level of buy-in from students was absolutely phenomenal. The students could have run the program if they wanted to. And I felt like the first year of teaching, especially, I learned more from them than I learned from anything else. And so it was a remarkable opportunity for a teacher with zero experience to go, oh, this is what a successful choir program looks like. And so it was a real blessing for me to be there.
Well, as expounding on that, when you went to another school that was maybe not as well settled, what did you take with you to use at that new school?
Sure. My first Title I experience was in Houston, and it was going to my first high school program. And I was young. I was 24 years old as a 6A high school choir director, and absolutely terrified. But at the same time, I learned the perspective that you put your students or you put people first before the music. And that was one of the first lessons I learned in my time at Atascocita, is that the people matter more. You can't make music without them. So we taking that, but also taking the organizational skills that I had been taught during undergrad, but also my first 3 years of teaching, and then just believing in my students. Quite frankly, looking at them and saying, it doesn't matter who was here before, it doesn't matter who's after me, but this is who I am and this is who you are. And we have a great opportunity to connect at a human level and to make some great art together. But more importantly, we get to connect as human beings, and we get to make something together. And so I think that's one of the great lessons that I was taught in my first couple of years of teaching is it doesn't matter the accolades, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what background you have. Everyone can and should make music.
Wow, it's great. That's a great life lesson. Speaking about life lessons, when you walk into a new program, as you have recently, what are the top three life lessons that you try to teach your students now? Because we're trying to grow not only great musicians, but great people. And to be, we try to teach our kids how to be better human beings. So, what are some of the top three things you try to teach them?
Try to teach first that people are first. We have to be the Steve Irwins of our own choir programs, where our students are the most amazing things in the world. If we've watched Steve Irwin talk about his passion for animals and for wildlife, we look at our students and we go, look at these amazing human beings that are in progress of becoming who they are. And all of us are in progress still, but put people first, music second. You can't make music without people.
Yeah.
And if they're so disheartened or in a state of mind that they aren't valued and aren't valuable, then they're not going to give you music that you think is worthwhile or something that has possibly excellence. But when the human factor, when the soul is involved, when you give them the why and you build relationships with them, they'll go to war with you. I mean, they will go and say, "This is a great piece of music. Let's learn it together. Let's dive in, and let's invest in this art that we have." And so it's really about sharing experiences and engaging in life with each other. That's what it comes down to. And people want to have the opportunity to be vulnerable, to share who they are, and to share and live life together. And we know that doing that through music is one of the great mediums to do so. So we get to grow together in music, and that's one thing that I think I've taught with my students. Having a positive mindset is a big thing. Being kind to others, but even more importantly, being kind to yourself and giving grace. We will all have seasons of excellence and seasons of survival. You can't have spring and summer without fall and winter. And I tell students that the comparison game is one of the great killers of your light and the great killers of your joy. And we as musicians are awful at that. We truly are. And so we get to engage in that and display our insecurities and say, hey, this is who I am. And my affirmation doesn't come from trophies or UIL success or how many students made it to All-State Choir. What comes from that is the human connection we make with others around us, and the memories, but more importantly, the relationships that will go past our years in the choir program or past college or university. And then finally, that growth mindset. It's teaching a concept that is the first priority in my mind. There are many people in this world who can get up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to try to be better than who I was yesterday. I tell my students, you got to be like a goldfish. I think it was a Ted Lasso thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that you learn from your mistakes and you can hold on to that for about 10 seconds and then you need to let go and you need to move on. But that growth mindset, you're learning from your mistakes first, then you're moving on to the next level of excellence in your life. And that can be anything, socially, emotionally, academically, you name it. But the growth mindset of I am always an aggressively growing human being. Don't stay stagnant. Don't stay comfortable. I think it's one reason why I love teaching Title I schools so much is that I hate being comfortable or being stagnant in a place where I go, well, I've got this under control, which means I probably stopped growing.
That's
So growth mindset is so important for my students.
that's very true. I think many of us who teach in Title I schools always feel like there's something new on the horizon to overcome
Always.
constantly. The kids change, situations change, and you're always working up that hill. I'm talking about that. What else besides that draws you to Title I schools?
Hmm. Um, I was drawn to Title I schools from, funny enough, from watching the movie Ratatouille. And I always think
Okay.
about that chef who says anyone can cook. And I have the mindset that anyone can sing and everyone should sing. That the amount of human development that happens when we sing with others is remarkable. My first few years of teaching, people talked about Title I schools like it was a pariah, to be quite honestly, like it's a place where you went to serve, to do your time, like you're serving in the military or you're doing a great service to your country. And until you found a better, more affluent school to go to where life was easier and you could go and make great music with students who had perhaps the same kind of problems, but it was dealt with more like at home, not in your classroom. And I didn't like that mindset. I didn't like the idea that teachers with experience, veteran teachers, would spend their time at these schools and call it their time of service, and then go, okay, whew, I'm done here. I can go and move on to a school where perhaps life's a little bit easier. And that mindset doesn't set well with me because it's like you're using your students as a stepping stone. And Title I students often have a rotating door situation with directors where they'll stay for a few years and they'll go on to greater and better things. And it's usually young, inexperienced directors. Not that young, experienced directors can't make a difference, but um, it just we need we need to give Title I students more than just our educational leftovers. But that's lack of funding, lack of social support. Oftentimes, Title I schools are outright ignored, and so there's a reason why our Title I school programs should be there's no reason, excuse me, why Title I school programs shouldn't be the pinnacle of our society. That we look at these schools, look at the music programs, and go, that is the quality we are always looking for. Where veteran teachers go, I'm shooting to go to a Title I school where I spend the rest of my career enveloped in this community and going, I will serve and love and watch these students persevere and break cycles of poverty. And that's social, emotional, that's monetary poverty, that's you name it. But the goal is to break cycles of poverty to make opportunities for our students to be successful outside of our classrooms. And so, yes, we should be the Steve Irwins of our students in our programs, and we should be shouting from the rooftops how amazing our kids are.
Well, yeah, it's some very wonderful words I hear coming from you. Having somebody who's been worked in a Title I school for almost 30 years, I can say I heartily agree with what you're saying. What are some of the highlights that we're going to get out of your session at TCDA this summer?
A lot of philosophy.
Quick highlights. I don't want to spoil it for people.
Philosophies on teaching, best practices, a little bit of quantitative and qualitative data as well. In particular, talking about the all-state choir process, and I've got some data on how COVID affected representation of our low, medium, high SES students in all states before, during, and after COVID.
All right. Well, thanks for your time here, Mark. I really appreciate it, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.